What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another edition of World's Finest, the official podcast and vidcast of the Comic Collectors Guild. With you, as always, I am your host. This is Jake, looking like Clark Kent right now, but you guys know me as the Superman, and joining me is my co-host, my Batman, that is Lee Lawson. Lee, how are you, sir?
I'm great, Jake. What's up, cool cats and kittens? Hope you guys are all doing fantastically well today.
Awesome. So we are breaking down the hit new movie that has come out by DC, that is Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. DC has been quite known for their animated films, and man, oh man, did they come out with something new and unique with this one. So we're going to break this film down. Lee, I see you shaking your head already because I feel like that's how I'm on the inside, but what did you think of this epic finale to the animated DC universe?
Dude, I thought it was fantastic. I loved it, and I also hated it. And I'll explain. But I hated it. I hated it for all the right reasons, though. And you guys will understand that what I mean by that. But as a whole, I loved it. Thought it was great. And as you said, this is kind of their wrapping up. I guess they started in 2007 with these DC animated films.
Yes.
And there's been 38 as altogether, I believe. But this was the 15th one in the story that was started with Justice League War. Which was based on the New 52.
Yes.
So there's been, since about 2013. Actually, it started with the Flashpoint Paradox, really.
Right.
Justice League Flashpoint Paradox in 2013. And so this was and then after that was Justice League War, and then this was the big finale. And it was an awesome finale. I loved it, man. And it was satisfying, heartbreaking. It was everything. Everything a great movie is supposed to be. It made you feel.
I concur with that finale. It definitely was. My goodness, I had a lot of expectations. I've enjoyed almost everything they've put out with this New 52 kind of style line. Mm-hmm. This might be my favorite one they've put out yet. DC, this is saying a lot. It's one of the best animated feature films I've watched in a long time. It's definitely the darkest. I did not expect it to be this dark, this epic. And it reminded me of if DC ever did a rated R animated Endgame. That's essentially the best way I could summarize it without giving away any of the details. It's kind of the paradoxes to Endgame with the Avengers, but in an animated form, in a much, much, much darker form than what Endgame was. So
totally.
I loved it. I loved it.
There's no way the Mouse House would ever go. The Mouse would ever go.
No.
Ever go this dark. And I don't even know if the actual movie studios itself would really go this dark. Warner Brothers, I can't see them putting something out theatrical like this. Maybe so, and it would be great. We'd all flock to it. I know I'd be there, you'd be there.
Yeah.
All us DC fans would be, and movie fans in general. But it was dark. It was gory. It earned its R rating. A lot of these movies have fluctuated from going back and forth to rated R to PG-13.
Right.
This one earned its R. I was really surprised by how graphic it was in some cases and how quickly it became graphic.
Yeah, very quick. Yeah, very quick. They said that this is not going to go well, immediately into the film. So let's talk about what was some of the key highlights for you or standouts to this film, whether it was a character or a scene. What really stuck out to you the most?
As a character, I think it was a lot of characters I think had their moment to shine in this. Obviously, Superman had a great role to play. He had a lot of ups and downs in this film, so to speak. Batman, I think, had a great time to shine, or some great moments there. When he was coming out of the brainwashing and all of that, and the love and the affection that he has for his son, Damian. I think Damian, speaking of him, I thought he was. You guys who have listened to this, I'm not the biggest fan of Damian Wayne, but I thought that he actually what I liked about this is that he grew as a character. He wasn't the same bratty kid as he had been portrayed at. And actually, just in the animation itself, with all of those Titans, a lot of them look like they'd gone through a growth spurt, so to
Yeah,
speak. You know what I
very
mean?
much
They'd
so.
all had grown up, and it looked like some years had been spent since we've been introduced to them or had passed. So I guess there was lots of great moments, man. Darkseid had a couple
Yeah.
moments to shine, and for all the wrong reasons, but all but yeah, I mean, there was just so many great standout moments, man. I mean, that I loved. But really, the character moments between
Yeah.
Batman and Dave, Bruce and Damian,
Yeah.
Clark and Lois, those type of things really stood out.
Yeah, no, I would
How
agree with
about
that.
you?
For me, kind of the same. Superman was definitely a big standout. I love how they've used him throughout all of these films, just kind of being that catalyst, and they really revere him in like a special, like he's like a once, what he is. I mean, he's the top dog, but I mean, they
Yeah,
really show him as that. So I love how he had his moments, positive and good, or positive
yeah,
and bad for in his own storyline, but especially there at the end, like you really see like true Superman. It was really cool to see him in Raven because that's not really a
yeah.
tandem that you would imagine very often. To your point, Damian really stood out to me in this one. In fact, so much so he catapulted up my Robin list a couple spots because of how much to me, this was my favorite Robin one-off story in any story. Like, it's the best Robin I've seen. I thought he actually acted very much like his father has been portrayed. I thought I saw a lot of this version of Batman that they portrayed in Damian, and to see him
Mhm.
mature, the brattiness kind of go away, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, that's Bruce Wayne's son right there. Like a couple of his lines and just the way his decision making, I guess. So he stood out. And then Constantine, he was really the center point of this whole movie, really.
Totally.
And, I'm not, he's a cool character, but he's not like one of my personal favorites. So I
Right.
mean, I don't really know like a whole lot about him, but he was really the centerpiece of this whole movie, and I thought he was fantastic.
No, I agree. I mean, the movie started with him. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? I mean, it did, and then he was kind of the impetus that ended it too. That kind of kind of wrapped it up at the end. And let's kudos to Matt Ryan, who
yeah,
has voiced him in live action now. I think, or voiced him in animation and also portrayed him in live action now for
yeah,
maybe 7 to 8 years. First he had his Constantine show, and then Legends of Tomorrow he's been on for a number of years now, and then he also does the voice for the animated stuff, and he
yeah,
did a great job as Constantine. And to your point, I'm not a huge Constantine fan either,
yeah.
but they did. I think he does a great job of portraying
You
him, and
see
he
his
definitely was a
power.
central point. Oh yeah,
Yeah, you see how powerful he is too. And to go with him, I thought Etrigan was a nice add of humor throughout this dark story. He was great.
without the
Yes,
rhyming.
without the rhyming, yeah. But he was, he's always a singer, but he had some great humor, especially, I liked him with Damien. Every time Damien would do something, he's like, "Oh, I like him. I
Yes.
really like him."
Yep.
I thought that was
Because even though Damian lost that brightness, he definitely did not lose the abrasiveness. So
no,
he
no,
kept that. He kept that 100%. And what else was cool about this movie? It was and the reason why I said I hated it in the beginning, guys, is that I only hated it because of the terrible dramatic things that happened to some of my favorite characters.
yeah, oh
That
yeah,
is what I mean. That is what I mean by I hated it. So don't get it twisted. I thought it was a fantastic movie. I'll probably watch it numerous times because I love to put myself through horror and torture. But it was just that's why. I mean, it's a lot of the characters that I've known and loved throughout the years really um, made some twisted, pretty horrible things in this.
yeah. Did we see some real body gore that happens? I mean,
Yeah,
without spoiling, I mean, let's just say Shazam's one of the people who had the least amount of impact on him, and he had his leg ripped off for crying out loud. So, and that
exactly.
was not even a bad one. So, just to
Yeah,
kind of give you a perspective on everything that happened. But I thought the way they used that was so cool, and to see, like Starfire or like Mara and Wonder Woman and
yeah.
Starfire against Raven. I mean, it was it was crazy. Like there was a multiple times I was like, what is happening right now? And I mean,
I know.
it really shows true like how powerful and truly the big bad of DC is Darkseid. you know.
Of course.
And
He
he is
totally
just
is,
so
man.
powerful. I mean, what he did to poor John Stewart,
Yeah.
basically having a magma from Earth transported from Batman to the Green Lantern Corps, and he basically just gets incinerated. That
Yeah.
was crazy to me.
I mean, he did, like I said, I mean, I guess if you guys these are just minor spoilers or kind of huge spoilers depending on how you look at it. Yeah, but I mean, Justice League was wrecked, was
Yeah.
totally wrecked in this film within the first 5 minutes, and I think that's what was so surprising to me is that didn't I thought this would be an adventure where they go to Apocalypse and they take the fight to him. So when it was happening right in the first like 3 minutes, I was like, whoa, where's this going? And then when everything happened, you know what I mean? I was like, damn. And then 2 years, a couple 2 years later, I was like, whoa, it was a dark stuff they were showing us. But what I thought was awesome is that they've, from these 15 films, they started with Flashpoint Paradox. This was the end. It was the end of it for sure of this story they've been telling. But it was also like a sequel of sorts to so many different films,
Yeah, it was.
that really were, because I guess the four pillars or four stories that they've told the groups were, Justice League, of course, Batman. There's been some Superman stories, but then Justice League Dark and Suicide Squad. And
Right.
did I say Teen
In
Titans?
the Titans.
Titans, yeah, sorry, and Teen Titans, yeah. So I mean, really, so if you just look at it, really, just wrap it up, it's Justice League, the Batman movies, Suicide Squad, and Teen Titans.
And the Justice League
And
Dark people as well. Like
yeah, so you
Constantine
know
and
what?
Swamp
I'll just
Thing
stop
and
trying to name it. But yeah, you're right. but it was a sequel to all of those films, like Son of Batman, of course. They touched on some of the storylines from Son of Batman. Obviously, Reign of the Superman was one, and then Teen Titans: The Judas Contract. You know what I mean? And then Justice League Dark. All those things had storylines that were kind of wrapped up. That were wrapped up within this film. Storylines from all of those stories that I mentioned. So that was kind of really, really cool way that they did it. And again, I just didn't expect the darkness of it. I loved every minute of it, but I just didn't expect it. And that's why I think I liked it so much, because it wasn't the same type of cookie cutter film, where it was just the good guys, come out at the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just wasn't.
Yeah, no, it had a lot of parallels to Endgame, to the beginning where, you see the heroes go to the villain immediately, and you're like, oh, already we're getting to this, and then they get wrecked, or something happens, and then years later, just like Endgame, and then we see like turmoils of it. But what I thought they did beautifully, what I liked, is there was no like time travel involved. There was nothing. Obviously, there's magic with Constantine, but it's more just to get from place to place. There was nothing unrealistic about it. Was just they had to be the truest form of their powers to overcome what had happened. And especially for like characters like Wonder Woman and Batman, it was a mental strength kind of thing that could snap them out of it to win. You know what I mean? So it wasn't a snap or anything that was due with time travel or anything like that. I liked that it was different in that regards, since the two stories are kind of parallel. So I liked that it was fresh and unique. And like I said, it was all that the Damian Batman scene at the end on both sides, from Damian to Bruce and then Bruce to his son. And that was, as far as like an emotion moment, that was probably one of the heaviest I've seen in DC period, in live action, or, not many scenes other than maybe like Flashpoint when, Barry gives him the letter from his dad. Do you see Batman in tears? You know what I mean?
Right.
And you really finally see, because we've seen Damian and his dad go back and forth and butt heads a little bit, but you really see, how much they truly care about each other. And that was one of my favorite, parts,
Yeah, like I said, that was one of the standout scenes for me as well. It definitely was showing exactly the affection that they have for each other, the true father-son.
Yeah, one thing I would love to touch on with you and see if you caught this too. I feel like one thing that we've talked about with Batman before is one thing that makes him stay. He is so on that line of going to the darkness. And one thing I noticed, when he's in that Morbius chair, as well as when he's on Darkseid, he really hasn't changed much. He just I think one thing they when he goes back and forth, it ain't really much of a change. So it just they did a good job of showing just how tight on that line that he really
already is.
You know what I mean?
The only difference would be that he's actually subservient to someone, I think, other than that persona that he kept, obviously without doing the good and the bad deeds. To your point, was right the same. It was teetering on that line the whole time as he does.
Yeah, so I guess obviously we talked about it. This has been like based off of the New 52, and they wrapped this
Yeah,
thing up. It seems like the way they wrapped it up is it's basically going to be a second Flashpoint involved. Where do you see them going from here? And do you think they're going to go streamline from the comics where we're going to get a pickup of
Rebirth.
Rebirth? Is that where you see them going, or do you think they're going to do something separate?
I think I've got two thoughts on that. One, I'd like to see them, if they are going to do that, then give Rebirth a shot. You know what I mean? I think Rebirth would be very welcome. Um, I definitely, as with the New 52, when they started making these movies, it was based on the New 52 comics. They've since done, like you said, I'm just kind of reiterating what you just said, restating what you said, but they went back to Rebirth, and they did that because people weren't a huge fan of what was happening in New 52. And so I would like to see them, if they are going to go back and restart, I would like to see it bring it something back to more what those earlier ones were, where it's kind of more true to the classic Batman and
Right.
Superman, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what Rebirth did, was bring them back to the roots.
Right.
And I'd like to see them do that. Now, that being said, so yeah, let's answer it as Rebirth. I'd like to see them go that route. Other thing would be is which they've kind of already done throughout, because they've been making other movies throughout this quote unquote New 52 DC animated stuff. And I'd like to kind of see them do that, and we just give it their all to that. And what I mean by that is focus on really classic tales from miniseries. Anything from like Infinite Crisis or Crisis on Infinite Earth, or even
like a Batman,
whatever
like
it is.
Long Halloween or something.
Yeah, stuff like that. But if you're gonna do, yeah, exactly. Take a classic story and do that. But if you're going to do that, let's do, and as much as I love Batman, let's give some other people a chance to shine.
Yeah.
Give Aquaman his own tale. Give, Hawkman his own tale. Or what I like to see them do, and this would be the perfect storyline for them to do it with, would be the, oh my gosh, Identity Crisis.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which is, because the one complaint I've had about these movies is that they've introduced a fantastic array of characters, and they really just have them do nothing but mill around in the background.
Yeah.
Like Hawkman, and Shazam, and
Martian Manhunter.
Those guys for these movies have really never, they didn't even see him introduced into the Justice League. All of a sudden, in the next movie, they were just there, and maybe they had a sentence or two, and then that was it. So even Aquaman, Throne of Atlantis was his big, huge debut, and I think he's maybe had 2 or 3 lines since then in every movie.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't get that. So Identity Crisis would be the perfect thing. If they're scared, I think the rumor is they've been scared to make movies without these other guys because without Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. Or give anybody else a solo film, is because they don't sell as well. But if that's the case, then make a Justice League movie, but make these other characters, the
give them more lines, give them a moment.
Flash, give them their moment, and then regulate or put Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, give them the B story. Have a big Justice League tale, but give them the B story and have everybody else have the A story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where we focus more on them and dive more into their characters.
Right.
So I don't even know if my answer even is answering what you've asked me, because I've kind of gone on in a tangent here. But I like to see, definitely if we're going to Rebirth, but I would like to see more stories devoted to other characters as well outside of that, and focus on more on those other big miniseries and series throughout the years. And they could be standalones. You know what I mean? They don't have to build on. I love the continuity that they have in these the New 52 films. I do love it. But if they just need to do a Crisis and just give me that great animated tale of Crisis and make it a 2-parter if you need to, I'm all for that. What about you? Do you share any of the same sentiments that I do?
So so I definitely like the Rebirth route, especially being that's really what got me back into reading comics was the Rebirth, and especially it does a couple of things that you mentioned, which I want to see is anybody who's read Rebirth is it would start and it ends with Flash running in the water. Well, the Rebirth starts with Wally West finding Barry, Barry finding Wally through the Speed Force. And then it brings in the Button, which obviously is an incredible storyline that is bringing the Watchmen into the DC universe. So that will bring new characters, and there you go. There's some new characters. You can use some side missions based off that. Obviously, Flash is a big part of this. So it is somebody, I mean, granted, we have seen Flash, but it's somebody besides Batman and Superman. So I think that'd be a great starting point is the Flash, Batman, the button would be a great way to start. And then based off of that, I think that would bring everybody together, have a storyline to base everything off of. To your point, throughout that, I still want to see one-offs of recreations of famous storylines, whether it's anything back to like what they did with even Gotham by Gaslight, where it's something completely different, but hey, it's cool. And then you still have these big core movies. To your point, I want to see Shazam get more lines. I want to see Hawkman, Martian Manhunter. They need more time to shine. So to your point, a Justice League movie where maybe Superman's flying somewhere else to stop one thing, but these core characters are taking out the big threat. So
exactly.
That's something I want to see. And by doing the button rebirth line, that is going to bring in Doomsday Clock. And anybody who knows that recently that, because obviously Darkseid was just taken care of in Justice League Dark, I don't think you should do Darkseid again, although you can have him in a movie or two. That brings Dr. Manhattan to be the big bad. And who doesn't want to see at the end of all a Superman versus Dr. Manhattan fight at the end? I mean, it literally does not get any better than that. Who wants to see Rorschach with Batman? I mean, all these Watchmen elements to it adds another world, and I'd like to see continuation of these characters. So I think Rebirth's the way to go. It seems like by the way they ended, that's the route they are going to go, if I had to guess. But, I mean, hey, if they want to even go back to like the old Frontier or anything in the Golden Age, like, I'd be okay with
it occurred to me while you were talking, let's see a Justice Society animated film. They haven't really introduced those characters at all into the animation world that I can think of. Besides like Young Justice, they've had them floating in and out of that show every now and then, the Jay Garrick and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, give us a movie on that. But I guess, I want to see more of the classic DC films, I think, moving forward outside of the New 52. Give us a little bit more Tim. I'm a Tim Drake fan, so don't just gloss over Tim Drake. Give him his time to shine in these animated films too. Have stuff like that. So Batgirl, for instance, I think she was. I guess I'm really getting kind of peripheral now, but she was introduced, I think, even at the very end of what was it? Batman Bad Blood
versus Robin, or no, Bad Blood? Yes, when Batman.
She was at the very tail. Batwoman was introduced, and she had her whole movie in there. But then Batgirl came out at the very end of that movie and shot her thing off. Shot her batarang, whatever it was, and that was it. And then we never really saw her again. I think she made a quick appearance in Hush.
She made a quick in the beginning of Hush, and then we see her for about 5 seconds before she gets mauled in this movie. So.
I mean, so there's other characters even within the Bat family that would be, they've introduced a great array of characters, as I said, but I really want to see them give more time to shine in these films. That's really the only complaint that I have about these, because other than that, man, I have loved everything, almost everything about these animated films. It's been not one to where I've watched and been like, I've always been able to walk away with some type of love for it.
Yeah, me too. I thought, even within the core characters, the two big ones, Superman and Batman, I thought they knocked them both out of the park within this whole. So like some of my favorite ones are these two versions. So last thing before we hop off here, Justice League Dark Apokolips War, out of 10, what do you give it?
I'm gonna give it a 9.
It's a solid 9.5 for me too. Like it's one of the best animated films I've watched in a very long time. So let us know what you guys think. Please check out this awesome movie. Trust me, it is worth your time. We can't recommend it enough. And let us know in the comments your thoughts on this incredible movie. Where do you think they're going to do moving forward? We'd love to hear your thoughts. And check out our website while you're at it, www.comiccollectorsguild.com. You can listen to us on Spotify as well as Google Podcasts, as well as all of our other content. Thank you so much for watching. Lee, it's been a pleasure talking everything Justice League Dark Apokolips War with you. And it's a pleasure as always.
Same here, my friend. I always have fun.
All right, guys. Until next time, stay hunting, and thank you very much.